Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, we've got all the latest updates involving the Janel Grant lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. We've also got news on how much Las Vegas paid WWE in order to host WrestleMania 41 next year, and Billy Corgan's teasing something big with the NWA. All that and more coming up now. All right, there are multiple updates available regarding Janel Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. So on Monday, Vince McMahon's team responded to Janel Grant's motion to strike comments that were included in Vince McMahon's motion to compel arbitration on April 23rd. I feel I should explain some of that. So a few weeks ago, Vince McMahon's legal team filed a motion to compel arbitration. And what this means is they are asking the court to move this lawsuit into a private arbitration hearing. And what that means is it wouldn't go through the courts, it would go through an independent third-party arbitrator. And what happens in those proceedings would not be public. So emails, text messages, all this scandalous evidence would not be made public if the court moves this to an arbitration hearing. Vince McMahon's legal team says that Janel Grant signed an NDA that included a clause that said if there are any disputes, whatever, this needs to go to a private arbitration hearing rather than through litigation that would be public. However, Janel Grant's lawyers rejected a lot of the comments that were in Vince McMahon's motion to compel arbitration, saying that he basically just used that motion as a chance to spread what they call inflammatory lies and say that they used the motion to compel arbitration as a platform to launch vicious falsehoods attacking Janel's moral character in an attempt to harass and intimidate her into submission. They wrote, McMahon's easily refuted lies have no place in this case. It was not necessary, reasonable, or responsible to use a public filing to impugn Janel's moral character. Indeed, McMahon's desperate attempt to distract from the legal substance of the motion highlight its weakness and the weakness of his overall case. This court has an inherent power to strike a party's filings. Accordingly, Janel respectfully requests that the court exercise that power to strike the motion's preliminary statement in its entirety and admonish McMahon and his counsel that such statements have no place in civil litigation. So basically, they are saying that McMahon just used that public filing, the motion to compel arbitration, to rip on Janel and try and attack her character. So Janel Grant's team requests that the court strike those comments from the record. So on Monday, Vince McMahon's legal team responded to the motion to strike the comments and said that Grant's motion is, quote, the height of hypocrisy. They wrote, plaintiff's motion to strike is meritless and the height of hypocrisy. Having falsely accused defendant in a public forum despite an obligation to arbitrate in an inflammatory 67-page complaint that completely disregards the mandate of Rule 8A2 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, plaintiff now seeks to strike the preliminary statement of the memorandum of law in support of defendant's motion to compel arbitration on the purported basis that it is too inflammatory. So basically what they're saying is, oh, you didn't like what we said in our motion to compel arbitration? Well, we didn't like what you said in the 67-page lawsuit that you launched, so you can't have it both ways. And Janel Grant's attorney responded to a request for comment from WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston. And this is Ann Callis, she basically said, for any comment, see our original finding. We're confident the truth is laid out well there. So then on Tuesday, WWE filed a motion saying that a memorandum, that they support Vince McMahon's motion to compel arbitration. And this is similar. John Laurinaitis put out a similar memorandum not too long ago. So now John Laurinaitis, WWE, and Vince McMahon are all telling the court, hey, we support this matter moving to arbitration. And so in their memorandum on Tuesday, WWE wrote, simply put, Grant has no claims actionable in this court because the separation and non-disclosure agreement she signed with McMahon and WWE The monetary benefits of which she concededly accepted and retained contains an arbitration provision that unambiguously precludes this court from adjudicating her claims. So basically, all of the defendants want this to go to arbitration, likely because they don't want the text messages, emails, or other communications to be made public. Then, also on Tuesday, Vince McMahon's legal team filed a new statement of undisputed material facts regarding the Janel Grant lawsuit. And it was reading through this that I thought to myself, if Vince McMahon is not writing these memorandums himself, he is heavily dictating them to his legal team. Obviously, the lawyers, they're going to, be the ones who really decide the meat of the memorandum. But if you've been following Vince McMahon throughout his life, he is not one to let others take control. And I'm just saying, the memorandums sound like there's a lot of Vince in them. When he called the motion to strike the comments the height of hypocrisy, I could just hear Vince McMahon's voice yelling that. And it reads, defendant believes the material facts stated below are undisputed and conclusively resolve the forum dispute before the court. Should the court find it necessary to conduct a hearing on any issue, defendant respectfully reserves his right to introduce additional evidence that bears on witness credibility, sophistication, state of mind, and similar issues. So this is just going back to their standard approach to this of we're going to attack Janel Grant's character. Yeah, so basically, this is just a whole lot of stuff saying, hey, our non-disclosure agreement said that this was supposed to be sent to a private arbitration hearing. And it kind of makes you wonder how many other NDAs like this are out there where the person is not able to take any matters to an actual court and has to go through arbitration. But these are the updates from the very disgusting Janel Grant lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. And a few more news notes to get to in this video. We now know how much Las Vegas paid to host a WrestleMania 41 next year in Allegiant Stadium. So if you didn't already know, WrestleMania next year will be taking place over Easter weekend. And it was revealed during a recent press event. The tourism group in Las Vegas that helped bring the event to Las Vegas, they mentioned that Las Vegas doesn't get a lot of tourists over Easter weekend, and they felt that bringing in WrestleMania would be a good investment for them. And it was also revealed that they paid $5 million, a $5 million site fee paid to WWE to host this event. And that's in comparison to, it was $1.8 million in site fees that Puerto Rico paid to host WWE Backlash there in 2023. That was obviously a really fun event, as was this year's Backlash. The Royal Rumble in Tampa Bay was $500,000. And then we know that the Welsh government paid $3 million to bring Clash at the Castle there in September 22nd. So this does mark what we, other than the shows in Saudi Arabia, this marks the biggest site fee that we know of that WWE's been paid for an event. We know that Minnesota was also in the running to land this year's WrestleMania as well, but then kind of Las Vegas swooped in there at the last moment. So all charges related to a road rage incident involving FTR's Cash Wheeler have been dropped. Wheeler is alleged to have been involved in a road rage incident that occurred on July 27th, 2023, and he is alleged to have flashed a gun at another motorist during this incident. A trial date had been set for May 20th. However, PW Insider was the first to report that the state of Florida has decided not to continue pursuing these charges, and they felt that there was not a good likelihood of a conviction in this case. So that seems to be it for this case. Cash Wheeler no longer facing charges related to a road rage incident. Charlotte Flair has landed a role in a horror film that is currently in pre-production. So Deadline put out a report earlier this week that Charlotte Flair will play the role of Miss Perfect in a horror film called You Lose, You Die. And so a description of the film says that it follows a sociopathic tech expert named Mr. Fantastic, who is played by Freddie Rodriguez, and he runs a show on the dark web along with Miss Perfect, played by Charlotte Flair, and Mr. Creep, played by Anthony Alvarez. And the game show involves the stipulation, obviously, where prisoners compete in challenges, and if they lose, they die. So this is her kind of second IMDb role. She also appeared in 2017's film Psych the Movie. She played Heather Rockrear, and she was also on an episode of Punky Brewster in 2021. So look out for Charlotte Flair in You Lose, You Die. And Billy Corgan is all over the news this week as a reality show based on his running of the NWA, as well as his recent marriage, just dropped on the CW app. So Adventures in Carneyland is available on the CW app, which I believe is free. He did an interview with TV Insider to promote the series dropping, and he mentioned that he's signed another deal for NWA. He's got another television deal lined up that he hasn't announced yet. He said, I just signed another TV deal, which I haven't announced yet. I saw someone in wrestling media wave off the NWA's success, but I don't know a lot of companies out there that have 3 television deals as an independent solely funded by me. And so the NWA is doing some cool stuff. They've restarted their territory program and are bringing on independents around the United States and maybe elsewhere as well to come on as NWA affiliated territories, just like the old NWA did. He also mentioned reports that came out shortly after the quote unquote cocaine spot from the NWA pay-per-view last October. And so if you remember, the sinister minister was shown appearing to snort cocaine at one point, and then a report came out from House of Wrestling shortly after that negative reaction to this spot could actually cost the NWA its TV deal with the CW app. However, Corgan refuted all of that, and here's what he said to TV Insider about the CW's reaction to the cocaine spot. Corgan said, after the cocaine spot where Sinister Minister and his hot minions were snorting sugar off a table in Cleveland, that story took a life of its own. NWA is going to lose its CW deal. They've lost their CW deal. About 4 days after the event, CW, I don't want to say who, but certainly one of the top people in CW called me and said, what is this all about? And I said, I don't know because no one from your world has reached out to me. He says, there's no problem over here. We're reading all these articles and we don't understand what the issue is. And I said, okay, so just to be official about it, there's no issue with what we did. They go, no, we think it's funny. So there's no issue. It was a completely invented story by either a troll inside the company or a leaker or something. And that actually, that quote was from an interview that he did with Fightful recently. So according to Corgan, a new TV deal for the NWA is going to be announced shortly. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Make sure if you haven't done so already to click the subscribe button, the like button, and the notifications bell